Good evening, everyone. I would invite Dardi ma'am to start the session.
Okay, good evening, students. So today we are going to discuss the last part, which is the angiosperm. But before that, we will quickly revise the gymnosperm also, which we have discussed in our yesterday's class. Okay, so let me slide. Should it be wait? Okay, the screen is visible, students. I hope it is visible. Okay, so let's start what we have discussed yesterday. So yesterday we have discussed the gymnosperms.
No, ma'am, screen is not shared.
What?
Screen is not shared, ma'am.
Students, screen is not shared.
No, ma'am.
Now it is shared.
No, ma'am. No, it is not shared.
Still it is not visible.
No, ma'am, it is not visible.
But why? It is visible from my side. Now,
Ma'am, it is not being shared.
there's the same thing happened. Wait. Just give me a second, okay?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Okay.
Or else you can try to share from phone and you can communicate through laptop, ma'am.
Ma'am, please allow me to share my screen here.
Yes, ma'am, you can try it now.
Okay, is my screen is visible now, students?
Yes, now it's fine, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
You can off one of your mic, ma'am, either from laptop or phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll revise gymnosperms a bit, then we'll start with angiosperms. Okay. So what is gymnosperms? So gymnosperms are a group of seeds producing plants. They are the intermediate of pteridophytes and the angiosperms. Okay. So they are a group of seed producing plants which do not produce flowers or fruits. Okay. So their seeds are not enclosed within a fruit, but rather they are exposed on cones or like similar structure. So this is the basic definitions of gymnosperms. So the general characteristics are: number one, they have naked seeds. Number two, the seed structure, which consists embryo, a nutritive tissue, often referred as megagametophyte, and a seed coat. Next is the reproductive structure. Basically, the male or female reproductive structure gametes are born in the cones, or you can also refer to as strobili. So there are two kind of strobili or cones. Number one, male cone, or number two, female cone. So male can produce male gametes and female can produce female gametes, which is ovules. And in male cones, it is pollen. Okay. So pollination is usually facilitated by wind. Why wind? Because gymnosperm lack showy flowers. They don't have showy flowers. So to attract the animals, so pollination is usually facilitated by wind. Next is vascular tissue, which is presence of xylem and phloem. So basically in the plant kingdom, we will found vascular tissue from pteridophytes onwards. In algae and bryophytes, there is no vascular tissue. In pteridophytes also, it is present, but it is very primitive. But in gymnosperms, it is a advanced level vascular tissue. Okay, so we will find xylem and phloem. So this is very well developed. For xylem is for water and nutrient transport, and phloem for food transport. Next is xylem structure. So gymnosperm xylem primarily consists of tracheids, which are long, tapered, that transport water and provide structural support. So it is for transportation of water, and it is long and tapered. Next is leaf. Gymnosperm's leaves, it is very shows very variation. It is like species to species, they are different. In some way you will find needle like, or in some you will find scale like. This adaptation reduce water loss and helps them survive in a range of environments. So basically, why the leaves are needle like or scale like? To reduce water loss, and it also helps them to survive in a range of environments, especially in dry or cold condition. Next is leaf arrangement. So leaf can arrange either clusters, means in group, or singly, depend on the species. Next is growth form. So basically you will find it in diverse morphology is there, such as you can see trees, shrubs, and also small trees. So habitats are also found in temperate and boreal forests, but also exist in tropical regions. So important reproductive cycle. So alternation of generation is there. Gymnosperm exhibit alternation of generates with dominant sporophyte, like pteridophyte. In gymnosperms also, the sporophytic generation means the plant itself is the dominant phase, which is the diploid stage, and a smaller part is there in the gametophyte haploid stage. Next is fertilization. The process involves the transfer of pollens to the ovule, leading to the formation of seeds. What is fertilization? When the pollen will transfer to the ovule and seeds will form. This is the fertilization process, and water is not mandatory in fertilization in gymnosperm, as in we have seen in the case of pteridophytes. So these are the common differences and also the structures. Next is what we have learned. Next is cell structure. The cell structure of gymnosperm shares many similarities with other vascular plants, but it has also some distinguished features. So what are that? Number one, cell wall, which is made up of mainly cellulose. But apart from cellulose, you will also find hemicellulose and lignin. And what does lignin did? Lignin provides strength and rigidity, particularly important for supporting the often tall and large trees within the group. So lignin is for the rigidity and the strength. It gives external support to the cell walls. Next is xylem cells, which is tracheids. Number one is in xylem cells is composed of mainly tracheids. So gymnosperms primarily have tracheids in their xylem for water transport. Tracheids are elongated tapering cells with thick lignified walls and are the main water conducting cells in gymnosperms. Pits. The end wall of tracheids have pits that allow for the lateral movement of water between cells. So what does pit do? So suppose there are adjacent cells, so the pit help to transport the water from one cell to the another. This is the role of the pits. Next is facel. Facel is totally absent in gymnosperm. You will find facel in the angiosperms. But when you will study the classification, yesterday we have did it. We have seen that in some groups there is presence of facels also. Next is phloem cells. presence of sheep cells is there, mainly sheep cells. So sheep cells are elongated and have sheep areas. What is sheep areas? These are perforated areas, means they have teeny pores in their end walls through which nutrients are transported. Through these pores, the nutrients are transported. Next is companion cells. So gymnosperms lack companion cells. You will not find the companion cells in gymnosperms. It is instead, sheep cells in gymnosperms are more directly involved in nutrient transport and maintenance. Next is parenchyma and collenchyma. Parenchyma are thin wall cells and they are versatile, involved in storage, photosynthesis, and repair. So, what is repair? Sometimes a plant get injured and these parenchyma cells help to recover from that phase. Next is collenchyma cells. These cells provide structural support, particularly in growing region of the plant. Suppose a leaf is growing, so this collenchyma cell will give structural support. They have unevenly thickened primary cell walls. They are composed of unevenly thickened primary cell walls. Next is scalenchyma cell. So these are fibers and sclerolites. So gymnosperms has these cells like fibers and sclerolites that provide additional mechanical support. Okay, collenchyma cells will provide support, but these cells will also enhance the mechanical supports. And these cells are thick, lignified secondary walls, but collenchyma are unevenly thickened primary walls, but here you will find secondary walls. Next is reproductive cells, which is composed of microspores produced in male cones, microsporangia. These develop into pollen grain, which are male gametes. Next is megaspores produced in female cones, which is also known as megasporangia. These develop into ovules. Each ovule contains a female gamete, egg cell, and other supportive tissue. Next is root and shoot cells. So in gymnosperm, root includes a variety of types of such as xylem and phloem for transport and pericycle cells involved in secondary growth. So in last class we have discussed that root cells are nothing but it consists of xylem, phloem cells and pericycle cells. Pericycle cells are found in the root only. Next is shoot cells. These cells are organized into tissues like epidermis, cortex, and vascular tissues, xylem and phloem. So epidermal cells has cuticle. What is cuticle? It is an outer thick layer and it prevents water loss. Their main task is to prevent water loss. So this is the role of cuticle. So this is all about the cell structure of gymnosperms. So reproduction, sexual reproduction is there where the cones like male cones and female cones, male cones will produce pollen grains, female cones will produce ovule and develop into seed after fertilization. Next is pollination will take place. While the pollens are mature enough, they will disperse in wine and they will come and fall into the ovule for fertilization. Pollen and ovule development. So male gametes, male cones produce pollen grains in microsporangia. Its pollen grains contain sperm cells and females has an egg cell. So how fertilization take place? So once a pollen grain lands on a receptive ovule, suppose there is an ovule and the pollen grain will fall there. So there are various enzymes in the pollen grains which will help the pollen grains to germinate there. And once the pollen will germinate, it will form a pollen tube. And through that pollen tube, the pollens will reach the egg cell. And after that, it will fertilize. And in gymnosperms, you won't find the double fertilization. But in angiosperm, which we'll learn today, you will see that there is double fertilization, means production of embryo and endosperm. Next is seed development, ovule to seed. After fertilization, the ovule develops into seed. The seed consists of an embryo, the future plant, and nutritive tissue, which give the nutrients, of course, and a seed coat. And again, female cones mature over time and seeds are eventually released. Next is seed dispersal. Like through wind, the seeds will disperse because animals are rarely seen here because they don't have showy flowers. Next is seed germination. When the seed lands on a suitable environment, it germinates. The embryo within the seeds begin to grow and the seedlings emerge from the seed. This is all about the sexual reproduction. So alternation of generation you will find dominant sporophytic stage, which is the plant itself. It is diploid twice and gametophytic stage where the male gametes, sperms, and the female gametes, the egg is produced. It is, of course, haploid, means single end. Okay. So asexual reproduction, vegetative propagation through rhizomes, suckers, Then regeneration will take place, like from any kind of plant part, a whole complete plant will grow due to the totipotency, the capacity of the plant part to reproduce itself into a new plant. Next is clonal reproduction, means identical plants from the parent plant, like budding, layering. So these all are about sexual and asexual reproduction. So classification, there are mainly four groups we have studied. One is Coniferophyta. Next is Cycadophyta, cycads. Next is Ginkgophyta, ginkgos. And the last one is Genetophyta, genetophytes. So these are the four groups that we have studied yesterday. So the classification criteria is the reproductive structure, like how the pollens, ovules are arranged. This is the key criteria. Like conifers produce cones, then cycads have large cones, ginkgos have unique ovule-bearing structures, and Genetophyta shows diversity in reproductive organs. So each group has some distinct reproductive structures. Next is the criteria is the leaf type, the form and arrangement of leaf, like it is needle-like, scale-like, compound. So these are the leaf type criteria. Next is xylem structure. The presence of tracheids versus facets in the xylem is a distinguishing feature. Conifers primarily have tracheids, while genetophytes have both tracheids and facets. Next is the morphology and the anatomy. Other morphological and anatomical features, including the structure of the stem and root systems, are considered in the classifications. So these are the basis of the classification. So the four groups are Coniferophyta, Cycadophyta, Ginkgophyta, and Gnetophyta. So ecological role, it's I will not repeat it. You will go through it. It's like habitat formation, soil stabilization, nutrient cycling, climate regulation, biodiversity support, economic values like timber and the which we used for making our furnitures. Next is water regulation. So these are all about gymnosperms. So this is the gymnosperms. You can see the picture. It is the cones which is attached in the plant. These are the cones, the male and the female reproductive structure. So in some plant, you will find that the male cone is larger than the female. So we will have to discuss each group in our next chapter. Each group, how basic characteristic, reproduction, we have to study in the next chapter. So next is the angiosperm. Wait a minute. Okay. So next is the angiosperms. So this is the most important in the plant kingdom. Like in our, when we will complete this thing, we will study almost all the botany part based on the angiosperms, like sexual reproduction, then cells, everything will be based on the angiosperms. So it is the most important class of the plant kingdom. So what are angiosperms? So they are commonly known as flowering plants. These are the most advanced class of the kingdom Plantae. So they are commonly known as flowering plants, are the most diverse and widespread group of plant on earth. Means these are the most diverse, and you will find angiosperms in all over the world. Means it is a very widespread common plant on earth. They are characteristic by the presence of flowers and fruits, which distinguish them from other plant groups such as gymnosperms. You will find here flowers also, fruit also. So these are the commonly known as, these are known as flowering plants. If question is asked about flowering plants, means they are referring to the angiosperms. So general characteristic of angiosperms. So number one, the flowers. So what is the structure of flowers? Flowers are the reproductive structures of angiosperms. Means in the flower, the male and the female gamete is located. So these are the reproductive structure. They typically consist of four main parts. The flower have four main parts. What are these? Sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels. So what are sepals? These are the outermost part of the flower, often green, and protect the developing bud. So sepals are the outermost parts of the flower. I think you have all have seen the hibiscus. So you will see the sepal there. So this is the outermost part. It is green in color and it protects the developing bud. Next is the petals. So it is brightly colored part that attract pollinators. So petals are what? What petals are like? Suppose hibiscus. You know the hibiscus is red in color. So that red part is known as the petals. So petals are the main attractive things of the flower, and they attract the pollinators like insects, butterflies, and all. The petals attract it. So they are brightly colored parts that attract pollinators. Next is the stamen, the male reproductive organ consisting of anther and filament. The anther produce pollen grains. So stamen is the, we can also refer it as androecium. Okay, androecium is also referred as stamen, the male reproductive part. So it consists of anther and filament, and the anther will produce the pollen grains. Next is carpel. You can also refer to it as pistils. So female, so carpel is the female reproductive organ. You can also refer it to as gynoecium, male androecium, female gynoecium, including the ovary, style, and stigma. No, don't worry, we will discuss the morphology of flower chapter. These things we will also learn in the morphology part. So this is just a brief outline of the flower. They consist sepal, petals, stamen, and carpel. Now let's come to the function. Flower facilitate reproduction through mechanism of pollination and fertilization. They attract pollinators such as insects, birds, and bats, or they may rely on wind or water for pollination. So mainly they depend on insects, birds, and bats, but they sometimes also can be pollinated by wind or water. Okay, so they basically, flowers are for reproduction purpose. Number 2 is the fruits. We are discussing the parts of the angiosperm. First is the flower. Now next is the fruit. So what is fruit? Fruit are mature ovaries that contain the seeds. So this in gymnosperms, seeds is there. Seeds are there, but you will not see, you will not find fruits. But in angiosperms, which is the most advanced class of the plant kingdom, so you will find here fruits. So they are the mature ovaries, and it will contain the seeds. They develop after fertilization and serve to protect the seed and aid in their dispersal. So these fruits, you will not find fruit before fertilization. Fruit is only found after the fertilization process, and it also protect the seed and aid in their dispersal. So types, so fruits can be fleshy like apples. You have eaten apples, like apples, berries. So in apples and berries, the fruits are fleshy kind of, or dry like nuts and grains. You have seen the nuts, right? So the fruit is very much dry. So in nuts and grains, you will see the fruit as dry. The structure of the fruit is adapted to various methods of seed dispersal, such as by animals, wind, or water. So the structure of the fruit can, like, it is adaptable to the means of the dispersal. Either it is animal, wine, or water. So this is all about food. Fruit. Next is the seed. Number 3 is the seed. So you will find seed in gymnosperm also, but there is lack of fruit. So structure, seed consists of an embryo, endosperm. It is a very new term here, endosperm. In gymnosperm, there is no endosperm, but in angiosperm, you will find the endosperm due to the result of double fertilization. We will of course learn that. So seed consists of an embryo, endosperm, and seed coat. The embryo is the younger plant that will develop into a new individual, while the endosperm provides nourishment during germination. So embryo is the young plant and it will develop into the new plant, while the endosperm provides nourishment during germination. Okay. Next is diversity. Angiosperm seeds exhibit a wide range of adaptation for survival and dispersal, including dormancy mechanism and specialized coatings. So there you will find very huge diversity in this chapter, because it is including the dormancy period. In the seed, there will be some kind of dormancy period. Then there are specialized mechanism also to break the dormancy. So there are various factors related in this part. Okay. This seeds. Next is vascular tissue. So from pteridophytes, we have seen vascular tissue, but in angiosperms, which is the most advanced, you will find the most advanced level of vascular tissue. Number 1, xylem phloem. Angiosperms have well-developed vascular tissue that transport water, nutrients, and food throughout the plant. Xylem carries water and minerals from the roots to other parts of the plant, while phloem transports sugars and other organic compounds. So what is the role of xylem? It carries waters and minerals from the roots to other parts of the plants. while the phloem transports sugars and other organic compounds. So, facile elements. Unlike gymnosperms, angiosperms have specialized xylem cells called facile elements, which allow for more efficient water transport. So, basically, these facile elements are absent in gymnosperms, but in the last, I think, last group, in the last group we will find the facets also in the gymnosperms because it is a bit evolving, but in angiosperm facile element is common. And what is the role of these facile elements? It will create the process more efficiently, means water will be transport more efficiently, more smoothly. That's why the facile elements are present. Next is life cycle, alternation of generations. Angiosperms exhibit a life cycle with alternation of generations consisting of a dominant sporophytic diploid generation and a reduced gametophytic haploid generation. Same as gymnosperms. Here is also you will find alternation of generations, and the dominant phase will be the sporophytic, the plant phase, which is diploid twice and the gametophytic is reduced, means a short period of time, means production of ovule and sperm. There is a short period phase which is haploid. Next is double fertilization. It is a very important term in the angiosperm. So, what is double fertilization? A unique feature of angiosperm is double fertilization. You will not find double fertilization in algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, or gymnosperms. It is only present in the class angiosperms. It is a very unique feature of this angiosperms. So, what is double fertilization? Uh, in double fertilization, one sperm cell will fertilize the egg to form a zygote, and another sperm cell fuses with two polar nuclei to form the triploid endosperm, which provides nourishment for the developing embryo. I think other teacher ma'am is teaching you sexual reproduction. So there you will learn more deeply about the double fertilization. That there is production of two sperm cells during gamete formation, and one sperm cell will fuse the egg to form a zygote, and the another sperm cell, number two sperm cell, will fuse with two polar nuclei to form a triploid, from a triploid endosperm, which provides nourishment for development embryo. Basically, endosperm is a triploid, means thrice n. We have seen that zygote is twice n, then gametes are one n, but endosperm is thrice n. It is a triploid because this is the result of fusion of two polar nuclei and one sperm cell. So 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. So it is triploid, thrice n. The endosperm is thrice n. Always remember that. Next is diversity and distribution. So species diversity. So angiosperms are the largest group of land plants with over, this is the largest group of the land plant. Okay. So there are more than about 300,000 known species. So it's a very large group of plants on the earth which are still living. They occupy nearly every habitat on earth from deserts to rainforests. So you will find angiosperms. Obviously, it is dependent on the climate. It is also found in deserts. It is found in rainforests, tropical regions. You will find it almost everywhere. Ecological roles. They play vital roles in ecosystem, providing food, shelter, and oxygen. They are primary producers and it support a wide range of wildlife. So they play vital roles in ecosystem, providing food, shelter, and oxygen. They also provide food. Next is shelter, means give home to other animals, organisms, and they provide oxygen. So basically, these angiosperms are oxygen producers. Means oxygen which we are inhaling today, these are produced by the plants. And as you've seen that the angiosperms is diverse. They have diversity of species, more than 300,000 known species. So imagine how much oxygen they are producing. If this angiosperms are removed from the earth, as we humans are destroying the plants, we are cutting the plants, how much it is affecting our environment. That's why nowadays people are very aware. There are spread of awareness to stop cutting of trees and plant more trees and trees. So these are very important. Next is adaptation, morphological diversity. Angiosperm exhibits a vast range of forms from towering trees to teeny herbs. So you will find very huge trees to teeny herbs, which is quite impossible to see from our naked eyes also. So teeny herbs. They have evolved various adaptation to survive in diverse environments. So they have evolved various adaptations to survive in diverse environments. Next is leaf structure. The leaves of angiosperms are typically broad and flat. Means they are broad and flat, optimizing them for photosynthesis. Some have specialized structure for water conservation, temperature regulation, or defense against herbivores. So leaf structures also vary. They are also like varies from species to species. Somewhere you will find broad in flat. Somewhere you will find compound leaf. Somewhere you will find simple leaf. Everything we have to learn in the morphology. So basically, they perform photosynthesis, and some have specialized structure for water conservation, temperature regulation, or herbivores. They have to defense against the herbivores. So these are the leaf structure. Next is reproductive adaptation. Flowers have evolved numerous adaptation to attract specific pollinators, including shape, color, scent, and nectar production. So there are also reproductive adaptation. Why we need the adaptation? Why? What is the necessity of the adaptation? To survive, to survive in the environment. Plants are evolving day by day. Now, in angiosperm, we will see that the pollinators are the main source of pollination. What are pollinators? Who did the process of pollination? So, pollinators are the pollinators like insects are the main source of pollination. So, if the flower is beautiful in shape, it has brightly colored, there is some smell, good fragrance, then only the flowers will come. Then only the insects will come. They will get attracted and they will do the pollination process, right? And in some flowers you will see the nectar. Honeybees collect the nectars, and with this they also, while they collect that, there's a process like in some flowers. Suppose that they have the nectar gland which produce the nectar, and the honeybees will come, they will feed on the nectar, and while they are feeding, they unintentionally they will also carry the pollen grains with them, and on the way they will again they will fall on other flower, and that pollen can fertilize to the next ovule. So this is how the pollination process is done. Next is adaptation to different environments. So angiosperms have developed various adaptation to thrive in different environments, like desert plants. Adaptation include thick cuticle, reduced leaf size, and cam photosynthesis, which is cactus and succulents. So, like as I said, that these angiosperms you will find them in desert also, aquatic plant also. They are found in terrestrial also. So they have a adaptation. Like in desert, there is scarcity of water, there is lack of rain. So what happened, the plant will include thick cuticles. So as a result, it will reduce the leaf size, and it will reduce the water loss. Some leaf are small, so that there is less transpiration from the plant. What is transpiration? The exhalation of water to the atmosphere. And there is a cam photosynthesis. So in physiology we will learn the cam C4 plants. What is C3 plants? We have to go through this. So example is cacti, means cactus, and succulents. Next is aquatic plants, how they adapt in aquatic environment. So adaptations such as floating leaves, reduce root system, and specialized structure for buoyancy. What is buoyancy? Means floating the leaves in the water. So example is water lilies, which we see sometimes. Next is tropical plant. Adaptation for high rainfall and humidity, such as drip tips and large leaves. So in tropical plants where there is high rainfall, so the plants adapt by having very large leaf, like banana plants. Banana plants leaves are very large. Okay, so now next is reproduction in angiosperms. Flowering plants have evolved sophisticated mechanisms for reproduction that allow them to thrive in a wide variety of environments. They reproduce through both sexual and asexual means. Here you will find sexual also, asexual also. Each with unique advantage and process. Below now we will discuss highlighting each one. Number one is the sexual reproduction in angiosperms. So sexual reproduction in angiosperm involves the formation of seeds through fertilization of an egg by pollen. The process ensures genetic diversity, means you will get variation and adaptability with plant populations. So what is sexual reproduction? It is a fusion of the male gamete pollen to the egg one. Okay, and then we will get a zygote, and it will again produce seeds. So flowers as reproductive organs. So in angiosperm, flower acts as the reproductive organs. Means the flower contains the male parts and female reproductive parts. So number one, male parts, that is the stamen, composed of anther and filaments. And the anther produce pollen grains which contain male gamete sperm cell. So basically the stamen consists of two parts. One is anther and one is filament. So filament is a long, narrow tube like structure which contains the anther, and this anther produces the pollen grains which contain the male gametes known as the male sperms. Next is the female part, which is we also known as carpel, or you can also say it as a pistils. So it includes stigma, style, and ovary. The ovary contains, basically the ovary is the main important part of the gynoecium. It contains the ovule. Each ovule has an egg cell. An egg cell is the main reproductive organ. The sperm will come and fertilize this egg cell. Next, pollination, the transfer of pollen from the anther to the stigma. It can be mediated by wind, water, animals. Animals include insects, birds, bats, or sometimes human intervention. So now types of pollination. So basically there are two types of pollination. One is self-pollination. Pollen from the same flower or plant fertilize the ovule. It often leads to less genetic diversity. Suppose there is a plant A and it contains both there is a plant A, and in plant A there is a flower. There is a red flower. So in the red flower there is both male gamete and female gamete, and when the pollination will take place in that flower only, that is known as self pollination. And in self pollination you will find less genetic variation. Means it is of one type only. Means from the single flower you are getting the pollen, and that pollen is fertilizing the egg of that flower only. So less genetic variation. Next is cross pollination. Means pollen from one plant fertilize the ovule of another plant. Suppose there are two plants, plant A and plant B. Plant A pollen, so the pollinators will reach plant B ovule and it will fertilize. That is called cross pollination, and it will prompt genetic diversity. Means more genetic diversity you will find in the cross pollination, which is more of our benefits. So two type of pollination, self and cross. So mechanism of pollination, wind pollination, common in grasses and trees. Pollen is light and produced in large quantities. So basically in angiosperm, grasses and also some trees possess this wind pollination. In wind pollination, pollen will be very light, so that the wind can carry the pollen. If the pollen is very heavy, like it is very heavy in weight, then how can the wind will carry it? So it must have to be light. So this is also adaptability of the plant. Next is animal pollination. Flower attracts pollinators through bright color scents and nectar rewards. So basically the flowers, they adapt itself to have bright colors. They have some fragrance and some nectar rewards. Pollinate me, I will give you nectar. You can eat my nectar. So that is also a reward. So this is animal pollination mechanism. Next is water pollination, occur in aquatic plants where, like water lilies, where pollen floats on water to reach stigma. Like pollen will float in water and it will reach to stigma of the plant. That is the water pollination mechanism. Okay, now fertilization. Pollination is done. Now fertilization. So that is unique to angiosperm. This involves two sperm cells. So the male gamete will form two sperm cells. One sperm will fertilize the egg, forming a diploid zygote, and the other fuses with two polar nuclei to form the triploid endosperm. So what is the role of the endosperm? It nourishes the developing embryo. Means the zygote will form, then the zygote will go repeated divisions and a embryo will form. Then this endosperm will give nourishment. Means like it will take care of the embryo. The role of the endosperm is that. Okay, so endosperm is the result of fusion of two polar nuclei to form triploid endosperm. This is triploid in nature. That is trisome. Always remember, endosperm is triploid. This is a very unique characteristic of the angiosperm group. Okay. Okay, so next is seed and fruit formation. So after fertilization, the ovule develops into a seed and surrounding ovary tissue forms the fruit, which aids in seed protection and dispersal. So now the ovule will develop into seed and it will surrounding the ovary tissue forms the fruit, which aids in seed protection and dispersal. Okay. So example of sexual reproduction in angiosperms like pea plants, Pisum sativum. It exhibit both self-pollination and cross-pollination, producing seed within pods. Next is apple trees. Apple, you have seen that we eat apple. That is Malus domestica, the scientific name. Rely on insect pollinators for cross-pollination, forming fleshy foods. So this apple pollinates by self cross-pollination, and insect will pollinate it. Next is orchid, a very beautiful flower, often specialized relationship with specific pollinators, demonstrating increased flowering structure. Now, asexual reproduction in angiosperm. Asexual reproduction in angiosperm involves producing offsprings without the fusion of gametes. Of course, it is asexual reproduction, so there will be no fusion of gametes, resulting in genetically identical clones of the parent cell. So the result plant will be identical in nature. It will similar to the parent cell, as there is no crossing over. Okay, this method is advantageous for rapid colonization and survival in stable environments. So it is more fast and it is more stable. So key feature of asexual reproduction. Number one, no genetic variation. You will not see the genetic variation. Offspring are clones of the parent cell, maintaining genetic consistency across generation. There is no genetic variation. Means you will see that the baby plant is similar in looks to the parent plant. Next is rapid propagation, enables quick spread and colonization, especially in favorable condition. Means it will rapid propagate. It will give the progeny more faster way. Utilize specialized structures. Various plants parts are adapted for vegetative reproduction. So it will utilize specialized structures. These are the key features of asexual reproduction. So methods are vegetative propagation. Number one. Actually, this asexual reproduction, these are very common, like vegetative propagation, regeneration. You will see in pteridophytes also, gymnosperms also, here also. Okay, just the parts are different. So in vegetative propagation, stolons, the runners, these are the horizontal stems that grow above the ground. Means these are the stems that will grow above the ground, producing new plants at nodes. So example are strawberry plants, spider plants. It will grow through the runners, that is the stolons. Next is rhizomes. What are rhizomes? Rhizomes are underground horizontal stems, whereas the stolons are not underground. They are above ground horizontal stems, but rhizomes are underground, and that will give rise to new shoots and roots. So example is ginger, bamboo, ferns. Next is tubers. So solen underground storage organs that can sprout new plant. This is also underground part. Like potatoes and yams. Yams means the colocasia plant. Inside, I think in some part it is also known as kochu. Next is bulbs. Short underground stems surrounded by fleshy leaves capable of producing new plants like onion, garlic. These are example of bulbs. Okay. Next is corms. Thickened underground stems that store nutrients and produce new shoots. These are also thickened underground parts that store nutrients and produce new shoots. That is crocus. So today you will do one thing. In the Google, you will search all these terms and you will see the examples. What are these bulbs? What are these corms? If you see the picture, I think you have seen onion. So this is a very straightforward example of the bulbs. Okay, now is a very important term. Apomixis. Questions are asked on this apomixis. So what is apomixis? This is a form of asexual reproduction where seeds are produced without fertilization, maintaining the genetic identity of the parent. So here in apomixis, seeds are produced but without fertilization, and it maintains the genetic identity of the parent. So mechanism is the embryo developed directly from the ovule without fertilization, often through the formation of diploid gametes. Means here the ovule, it will form the seed, but here you will not see the fusions of the male gamete. Means the sperm will not fertilize the ovule. Due to some issues, the ovule itself directly will develop into seed in a formation of diploid gametes. So example is in some citrus plants like oranges, also a example of apomixis. Then dandelions and certain grasses exhibit apomixis. So what is apomixis? It is a form of asexual reproduction where seeds are produced without fertilization. No fertilization will take place, but the ovule will directly develop into the seeds. Grafting and budding. So grafting, what is grafting? It is a horticulture technique where tissues from one plant are inserted into another, allowing them to grow together. Commonly used in fruit tree propagation, where a desirable scion stem is grafted into a rootstock. Okay, suppose there are two plants, plant A and plant B. Okay, two plants, plant A and plant B. So suppose plant A is a long leaf plant and plant B's fruits are very tasty and sweet. What we need? We need that the resulting plant, it must be a long leaf plant, and the fruits must be sweet in taste. So what we will do, we will mix both plant A and plant B. What we will do, we take one part, a scion stem, and we will graft it into the root part of the plant B. As a result, the progeny which will give the new plant, it will be both long lived and it will also have sweet fruits. So this is also way of, this is known as grafting. Means you can get a desirable trait on your own wish. Okay, next is budding. It is a similar technique to grafting, where a bud from one plant is inserted under the bark of another plant. It is also similar to the grafting process, where bud is inserted into the bark of another plant. Next is cutting. You have seen that roses are the most common example of stem cuttings. So section of stems are cut and planted to a new plant. We will cut the stems from one place and we will plant it to another ground. Then we will see that new plant will grow. So that is stem cutting. Next is leaf cutting. Sometimes leaves are also cut from one part and it will insert it in the ground in another part. So examples are begonias, African violets. Next is root cutting. Like stem and leaf, root can be cut like that. Means pieces of root can regenerate into new plants. Example, blackberry, horseradish. Next is layering. So what is layering? So it is a part where a part is bent, a plant part is bent into the ground. So example is simple layering, where a branch is bent to the ground and covered with soil, where it forms roots and eventually becomes a separate plant. Suppose there is a mango tree, plant A. So what we will do, we will bend its branch, okay, to the ground, and we will cover it with soil. After that, we will see that a new plant will grow. So example is jasmine, forsythia. Next is air layering. What is air layering? So here a section of stem is wounded and wrapped with moist material, encouraging root formation while still attached to the parent plant. Means the plant A is injured by ourselves. We injured the plant and wrapped it with some moist material. Means we'll give a moist environment, and it will, what happen, as a result, root will form and it is still attached to the plant. Later it will be detached from the plant. So example is the rubber plant and philodendrons. These are all types of asexual reproduction. So examples of asexual reproduction in angiosperms: banana plants, Musa species, reproduce primarily through suckers, producing genetically identical offsprings. Next is aspen trees, Populus tremolodis, forms extensive clonal colonies through shoot suckers. So these are the examples of asexual reproduction. Next is potato, Solanum tuberosum. So tuber will form into a new plant. So angiosperms give reproduction in both sexual and asexual method. Both you will see here. Next, most important, classification of angiosperms. So angiosperms are traditionally divided into two main classes. In angiosperm, you will see two main classes. Number one is monocotyledons, monocots. So what are monocots? In monocots, the seed have only one cotyledon. Seed leaf, you will find only one cotyledon in monocotyledons, means monocots. Next, leaf vennations. Leaf typically have parallel vennations, means the vennation will be straight kind of. Okay, next is root system. Monocots usually have fibrous root system, means the root system is fibrous. Floral parts are often in multiples of tree, means the sepals are in multiples of tree. Vascular bundles scattered throughout the stem, means the anatomy is scattered. Examples are grass, lilies, orchids, palms, and wheats. Sometimes you have seen the wheat plant, no? The leaf is very much long and the venation is like parallel kind of. And you will find here cotyledons only one. That's why it is known as monocot, one cotyledon. Next is dicotyledons, dicots. Seed structure, it have two cotyledons. That was di. Di means two, Cots mean cotyledons, two cotyledons. There is presence of two cotyledons. So here leaves usually have reticulated late-like phonations. In our surroundings, suppose you take a hibiscus plant, you see the leaf, the phonation will be reticulate. It is like net-like. Root systems in dicots have taproot system, and floral parts are often in multiples of 4 and 5. But in earlier monocot, we have seen that floral parts are multiple of 3. Then fascicular bundles are arranged in a ring within the stem. But in monocots, fascicular bundles are scattered. But here it is arranged, it is systematic. So example are rose, sunflowers, oaks, beans, hibiscus. So in our surroundings, most of the plants are dicotyledons. So evolutionary history and phylogeny. Angiosperms are believed to have evolved around 140 million years ago during the Cretaceous period. So it is evolved around 140 million ago. So back, so back. Their rapid diversification is often attributed to their co-evolution with pollinators and efficient reproductive strategies. So recent phylogenetic studies have led to a more refined classification of angiosperms, incorporating molecular data and evolutionary relationship. The angiosperm phylogeny group, APJ system, is widely used for modern classification and recognize several orders and families beyond the traditional monocot and dylon system. So nowadays, the modern classification, which is also known as angiosperm phylogeny group, APJ system, or note the term angiosperm phylogeny group or take the screenshot, is a widely used for modern classification. And nowadays, apart from this monocot and dicot traditional system, there are presence of more orders and families in the angiosperms. And these are evolved 140 million years ago. This is the history of the angiosperms. So ecological roles, of course, they are the primary producers. They give us the food. They can produce their own food. Example is rice or sativa, which we use. We eat rice, right? So rice is the example of angiosperm. Next is grass species, Poaceae families like grasslands. So these also give us, they also produce food for several organisms. Next is maize, maize. We also use maize in our food day-to-day life. So these are the examples of angiosperms. Next, they also give habitat to several organisms like oak trees. These are very big trees. So it gives support, shelter to various birds, insects, and mammals. Next is mangroves. They are also a Rhizopora mangle. They give habitat to various small organisms. Next is seagrass. So their habitat is shallow coastal water. So these are the examples. So seagrass give habitat to fish, turtles, invertebrates. So these angiosperms, they can also be primary producers, and they can also be used, they can also seen as, give it as habitat formation. They also give habitat to millions of species. Next, they also help in pollination and diversity of support. Means different pollination network will come, whether wine, water, or insects. So like sunflower, so attract in sunflower, you will see that pollinators like bees, butterflies, birds and come, and they will provide nectar and pollen, supporting pollinator populations. Means, okay, the insects will help the plants in pollination, but as a result, the plants will also give them reward like nectars, nutrients. So they also have a very huge biodiversity support. Example is apple tree. Next is they also help in carbon sequestration. What is carbon sequestration? I have told that we human exhale the carbon dioxide, and this plant absorb the carbon dioxide. So example is the Amazon rainforest tree. If there is no plants in the nature, then there will be lot of carbons in the atmosphere, and as a result we will die. So plants are very important. Next is soil formation and nutrient cycling. So plants, angiosperms also help in soil formation. Example is leguminous plant. We'll learn in next classes. We'll know about the nitrogen fixing bacteria and all. So they help in soil formation and nutrition cycling. Like the nutrition like nitrogen, like agrobacterium, they help in nutrition cycling. So these are the ecological roles, and this is angiosperm. Look how beautiful is the plant. This is angiosperm with the plant. Okay, any doubt in this topic, you can ask me now. Any student have any doubt in this? If not, in the next class, we'll have to study in the next chapter, which is a bit very much lengthy, because there we have to study each class, like LG. In LG, you will have to learn all the 11 divisions. It's a very lengthy topic. So we have to go through the details in the next chapter again. So any doubt? If not, then ma'am, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, ma'am. I am done with the chapter. The chapter is finished.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, students. So please revise whatever madam discussed. And again, we have class tomorrow morning. That is from 5 to 7. And YPC students, you people are not joining the morning sessions. Only some students are able to see Hasini, S. Likita, and Dilshan. All the other, and Shivani also. So the remaining three, please join the morning session also. Right? Again, we'll meet tomorrow morning from 5 to 7. Bye, everyone.
Okay, ma'am.